Time now for the voice of the land on the Big Play Network with your hosts, Kevin Arnold and Always Positive Jay.
You know, we're in the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. All the questions kind of coming in about how the tournament would go. I think it's been one of the better tournaments. I don't know that as many eyes are on it with the NFL and other sports going on right now as it would have been if it was able to be played in the summer. But we're in the knockout stage. We have gotten through 4 of the knockout games. The Sweet 16 is the best way to describe it, the final 16. There's 4 more to go. Moving on has been the Netherlands, unfortunately. Argentina, England, and France, the defending champions, move on. Kylian Mbappe is just having a whale of a tournament. With the injuries that France has had, that dude can score, and there's a reason why in January when a lot of these club teams want some of the get back into the transfer window, as they say, Kylian Mbappe is at the top of the list. I don't know if it's working there in PSG with him, Messi, and Neymar. But, Bree, I know that you've been kind of looking into it, getting into it a little bit as well. How have you liked this tournament so far?
I love the World Cup. I love it every 4 years. I watch soccer regularly. I'm trying to call it soccer for the sake of this.
Oh, you don't have to.
Call whatever you want.
Yeah, call whatever you want. There really is no debate here. If we disagree, we always understand the other side. So we never get into that.
A couple of my friends are starting to get into it, so I call it soccer when I talk to them about it because I want them to be into it. As far as I love the World Cup. It's so much fun to watch. I know people have gripe with it for whatever reason. They say it's slow. They say they can't get into it. They don't like that it can end in a tie.
Yet they watch the Browns.
But yeah, exactly. Soccer is more exciting than any Browns game I've ever watched up until probably
right.
the last 3 years. But it's fun it's always moving. It's fun to watch. I mean, once you start to understand the rules and what's what, it's super easy to get into. I was talking to somebody the other day and they were like, "No, I'm watching it. I don't really understand it, but it's interesting." He's like, "I'm stressed out." I was like,
the one rule that threw me off was the added time. I had no idea that they added time for when the ball goes out of bounds and they add it up, and it was explained to me, and I'm like, all right, we're almost there, and then they add 9 more minutes. I'm like, 9 more minutes? No!
9 minutes is unheard of.
Yes. See,
9 minutes is unheard of.
I couldn't handle 1 more minute, and they added 9. I was like, did you guys know where my heart rate was at during these games?
Do you know where mine was?
Yeah. That's why I said I related to hockey because I watched a lot of hockey growing up, and it's fairly it's just you're okay and it's between the middle, but once you get to those edges and those balls, you're in the anticipation and anxiety just goes to a whole nother level than any other sport. And I think the low scoring that everyone complains about is why it makes it so exciting. When those opportunities come, it is, and you score, you just go nuts. When we scored against Iran, I was watching at work, and everyone starts looking at me because I'm just screaming. I'm like, "Yeah, USA, you!" And they're just going, they're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Sorry, I was watching soccer." I was they're all making fun of me. I'm like, "Dude, this is great. I don't care what you guys say."
Yeah, if it gets me talking about it a lot on the show, if it gets one person into it, 5 people, 10 people, whatever, I'm just trying to be here to promote the sport, like I said, that I've loved since I was 5 years old. That not a lot of people in this country have loved. PSA for those that are trying to get into the sport and maybe you're being turned off by the additional time that Jay was just referring to. This is unprecedented stoppage time at the end of halves and end of games. The end of halves, if it's 1-0, 0-0, or 0-0, if people don't know what 0-0 is, when you're talking soccer or football, the real football, 0 is 0, not 0. But if it's 0-0, you see 1 minute added. No matter what has really gone on, you've seen 1 minute. The least I have seen, for the most part, I've seen minutes here and there, but the least I've seen in those cases have been 3 or 4. I'm thinking, what are we doing? What clock are you looking at? What clock are you taking? We are making sure that these guys play all 90 minutes of actual soccer so that any time the ball has gone out of bounds, any time the play has been stopped and the clock continues to run, they make sure to add enough time so that the flow of the game on the field has been a total of 90 minutes by the end. It's been nuts. So That's not the norm. So if you want to take what you've learned from watching the World Cup and find a club team, you won't see that kind of stoppage time. I'm
At
just
least
gonna
this
say that.
time, when next time I watch a soccer game, I know the clock doesn't really matter. I'm like, well, there's going to be time added, so just wait to find that out. That's what I just came out of left field, total curveball for me. I was like, wait, there's
6
more.
to 9 minutes is a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
I mean, what was that?
That's not typical. You'll get 4 to 3 more often than something like that. Like that they gave us 9, and I was like, what?
So who are your teams then that you root for?
Team wise, I like Spain. I like Brazil. But now I'm with the U.S. and Mexico out. U.S. and Mexico are my teams. But with them out, I'm kind of more so just falling to player aspect.
Yeah.
Like I love Memphis on the Netherlands. I love obviously Neymar and Vinny Jr. on Brazil. Nico Williams on Spain. Raya on Spain, and Sanchez, like he doesn't play.
Do you follow Premier League? Is that it? Premier League?
Yeah.
Yes and no. Like,
do you have a team?
I follow the crew. I follow Charlotte, but other than that, really, not really.
Yeah.
I watch women's soccer a lot more than I watch men's soccer.
Yeah, they're a lot better than our men's soccer team.
Well, yes. The U.S. national team on the women's side is a lot better, because if people didn't realize, if you see the women play and you see the U.S. crest, the U.S. symbol on their jerseys, and the women have 4 stars above it and the men have none, there's a reason for that, and that's because the women have won 4 World Cup World Championships.
Wow, that many.
Yeah. The men have won.
Way to represent, ladies.
Yeah. That's why when I've been wearing gear to work while we watch the games, I was wearing my U.S. women's national team scarf, trying to bring some of that energy, because, hey, they play in their World Cup next year, or in the summer.
Yeah.
So 6 months later, you're going to get more of this on the women's side. And sometimes that's even, like Bree's kind of mentioning, it's better to watch because the technical skill, the nuances of the sport are definitely focused on
women's
a lot
soccer
more.
is so much better.
And that's why I always coached it too.
That may be biased. I may be biased, but it's a lot more fun to watch.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are just better at it. Even like when I tell anyone to teach their kids if they want to watch NBA, watch WNBA, teach their kids, because you'll learn more fundamentals. Because no kid's gonna go out there and be dunking and throwing alley-oops to each other. So like the way a woman's game is, it is so much more fundamentally sound than the NBA. Like it's not a lot less ISO ball and stuff.
Yeah.
It's way more team oriented, and it's played the way it's actually supposed to be played.
Yeah, women's soccer I think is the same way. It's fundamental driven, so that you definitely get better examples. And you know, kids aren't going to go out there playing basketball. They're not going to shoot from 30 feet, 35 feet back just like Steph Curry does. Steph Curry has been able to do that and progress to that point because he worked on the fundamentals. But that people don't get to see that. In women's sports, I feel like that gets focused on a lot more, and I love that because, again, it helps show younger kids what it actually takes to get to those higher levels.
With the men's winning, I seen you tweeted out something about how the women now get paid a lot more too.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So in the new collective bargaining agreement between them, it's equal pay. So the men and the women share by the men winning their group, or not winning their group, but moving out of their group into the knockout stages. There was about $12 to $13 million there to give out. That now, based on what has been bargained between the men's and women's side, that gets split evenly. So even though the women aren't playing in their World Cup right now, they just made more by the men going to the round of 16 this year than they did in their last 2 World Cup wins.
Good for them.
Mm-hmm.
Combined, they made more in that one instance.
Insane. And they're the better team. It's insane.
It's the money they deserve. Mm-hmm. It's the money, 100%. And it's been 100%. A long time coming, and that's why I applauded. And of course, there was some idiot that replied and I made sure to report because it was I don't even want
just sick her on him. She's a savage on Twitter, man. She's great.
And I felt horrible because apparently I was following the guy, but I think it's probably from one of those follow trains.
When you follow back people.
You follow back people, and it's been a while.
I'm convinced that like a third of my followers follow just because they hate me. Like I'm just convinced by it. It is what it is.
I had a friend text me today, and he's like, I think I'm getting off Twitter because he was real upset about Ohio State getting in. He's not an Ohio State fan. And he goes, just the Ohio State fans are just coming at me and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, 80% of our nation is not on Twitter. And then I'd say 80% of people that are on Twitter really just read. I'm like,
yeah.
And then 15% are left are probably just the loud, mean people that are just angry with life, and that's all they're there for, just to be loud and angry. I'm like, so don't let it bother you. You know who your real friends are from here.
Mm-hmm.
Worry about them and set up your Twitter so that when people you don't follow say something, you don't even see their mention. They're just talking to a wall.
Yeah, that mute button.
It's great.
Over time.
I used to do the block, but then I kind of like the idea of people talking to the wall and thinking that they're getting
So,
to
yeah,
me.
I love to mute people and just let them argue with themselves. It's
Yeah,
fine. Go ahead.
that's always the best. Somehow we always get off on these philosophical.
Oh, always.
We get off track, but it's kind of helping because the pain still is there from yesterday with the U.S. going out, and I know that
I was like wrapping Christmas presents during that game because I like set my alarm. I was like, I'm gonna wake up early. I'm gonna get ready and watch this game, and then like we were down 2, and I was like, I need to do something like
that
pick
goal.
me up. So I started wrapping Christmas presents, and I don't remember. I left the room for something, and that's when we scored. I was like, should I turn this game off? Like, am I a bad one?
Same thing with the Cavs stuff tonight. Should I turn it off? Should I not even talk about them? Is something going to help tonight, or are they going to come back?
That loss hurt. I wanted them just.
Yeah.
Poor baby Eagles. I wanted them so badly to move on.
Who's the guy who sacrificed his body to win? What's his
Christian
name?
Pulisic.
Oh, man. What a champ, dude. What a champ.
Yeah, and able to come back and play in that game. Giving up that second goal right at the end of the half and in that extra minute of stoppage time at the end of the half.
They're just like the Cavs and the Guards and the Browns now. They're a young team.
Yeah.
The U.S. is a very, very young team. And I feel like that really showed against the Netherlands, the inexperience. You saw the hesitations. You saw the 2 steps. You saw people stutter step because of that inexperience. Memphis footwork is insane. And there's not a single defender on the U.S. that has enough experience to guard someone like that. There's just not.
Right. And, as I reflected on it, I've started to think, the mentality that the U.S. brought to the game. Again, it felt like they were the better side for the most part, just like they were against England. And England is the only team the only game that they have not scored in was against us. And I felt like we were the better team in that. But the U.S. brought
tempo.
Yeah. The U.S. brought that, group stage mentality to a knockout stage game. And that's where the youth played in. They don't know how to flip that switch. But I love seeing guys, some guys that may not get the chance again in 2026 when the World Cup is here, but others that are young players sitting on the pitch at the end, kind of soaking it all in. And the ones that were consoling each other and being open about we didn't bring our best today, and we thank the U.S. fans. We feel bad that we did not come through for you, all the people, all the support that we have gotten. The biggest reason that this U.S. team didn't go further, I believe, than just one round of the knockout stage is because all of these young guys, and half of them that were still going to be, they were teenagers, but were going to be eligible and probably selected to go to 2018. When the U.S. team did not make that World Cup and these young guys didn't get that experience, now you got to go from a team that you got the experience of a knockout stage. Now you got to come to your home soil in North America, and people are going to expect you to take it as far to the top as you possibly can, if not all the way to the top. That is a big jump to make. It's one thing to learn, get to the playoffs or get to the knockout stage and lose and learn, then next time you get to win. It's another thing when you only lose in the first round of the knockout stage, and now people are thinking, well, in 4 years, you should be one of the favorites to win the actual cup. You got to go 3 rounds past it. That's going to be very difficult and a lot of pressure for these young players. But playing overseas, I think that is going to more of these players and more of these younger players playing well for U16, U20, U21. By that time, they'll be ready to go. And bright future, just it still hurts right now.
What I think this team, we hope that this team does the most is not even what they're doing on, is it the pitch?
The pitch, yes.
Oh, man, I'm getting good. It's how they inspire younger kids that are coming up. Like, that hopefully younger kids saw this and, like, it's like, oh, I want to go play soccer, Dad, and they go and want to go play soccer now and stuff. And that's what you hope for. I mean, that's what Tiger Woods did to all these kids that are now beating him. Those were all kids that were inspired by Tiger Woods. Same thing with Michael Jordan inspired others, and LeBron in this area has inspired others that love basketball and stuff. You just hope that the next generation picks up.
And the beauty of soccer, football, is that I was inspired by just as many on the men's side as I was the women's side, and that's the beauty of the game, is that it doesn't matter doesn't matter about gender, because both sides are talented, and even the women's are more talented in our country especially. I was as much influenced by Brian McBride and Landon Donovan as I was by Mia Hamm and Brandy Chastain. So, in that 1999 World Cup, that's memories that they're going to last for a lifetime watching that.